Hello dear viewer, it's me, not Ace Salieri. Because Ace has got a fair few things on his plate at the moment, you've got an RAR with your good old British friend Afro Blue. Now, today we're not going to be looking at a video game reviewer, instead we're going to be looking at a comic reviewer, and I hesitate to even call the guy that. As a compromise, it will be a review of a comic based on a video game, so we're still tying into the whole overarching theme. If you haven't guessed by now, we are going to be looking at that guy with the glasses' very own Linkara. Yep, this guy, once described by an anonymous source who used to do TGWTG's recruiting and talent scouting as the only person we could find doing comics. Not only is Linkara lackluster and commonly misinformed, not only does he have no screen presence whatsoever, yet chooses to spend half of most episodes churning out his own poorly written plot, he's never actually reviewed anything. In fact, Linkara should really rename his show Bedtime Stories with Uncle Linky. But let's get to the video itself. His review of Street Fighter Issue 1.
When I get a massive amount of requests to do a comic, I'm usually able to give the people what they want.
Okay, so apparently he does satisfy someone. Please tell us how you're able to give them that. Is it from your extensive back catalogue that you've collected over the years?
Tons of people have wanted me to look at these things, and I just needed to call out to people during my live show at MagFest to get people to send me copies. And they responded in droves, sending me email after email of offers to get rid of these things. Well, I'm happy to report that your efforts have paid off, and I am now the proud owner of the first 3 issues of the Malibu Comics Street Fighter series, not only in individual issues, but also a trade collecting them.
So for those who didn't quite catch that, let me translate. What he's just said is that he didn't have the comics, he didn't particularly want the comics, so he went ahead and asked for them live at a convention, which is kind of above even e-begging, and people responded. Now, if he'd have just taken the fan contributions of the 3 issues, absolutely fine. But no, this guy takes 3 single issues for his collection and a trade. You don't need to read both to do the review. Okay, so we've ascertained that the guy is a little greedy with donations and seemingly hasn't heard of, oh, I don't know, eBay? Is he at least a fan of the Street Fighter series?
I admit, however, that I have no real connection to Street Fighter. As I've stated before, I grew up with the Sega Genesis, and while there was a Genesis version of Street Fighter 2, I was more into Mortal Kombat. Much to the chagrin of my mother, who refused to let us have the game in the house because of the blood and violence.
So, you're a fan of a game that you weren't allowed to own because of your mother. You had a perfectly good alternative in Street Fighter right there, and you didn't get it. This all just comes off as, hey, I'm going to say I preferred Mortal Kombat on the Mega Drive because Mega Drive owners had Mortal Kombat and Super Nintendo owners had Super Street Fighter 2, and that's a popular opinion. I mean, what did we get out of any of that, other than being confused? For those who haven't seen the original video, we're now 1 minute 40 seconds in, and we're now being treated to this opening. Yep, you can't have a bad reviewer without an equally terrible opening theme to match.
Life out, not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara.
I'm not gonna subject you to any more of that than I absolutely have to, for your sake. Once we've gotten through that, he tends to like to start with the covers of the books. It's probably the most time he actually spends on any one page. Have a look.
Wow, this is awful. I think the only thing I can say as a positive to this cover is that all the characters that we see here are in fact in the comic.
Yeah, I just hate it when Spider-Man gets on the cover of my Sonic the Hedgehog comics.
The poses are just odd. Ryu is hunched over as he runs, like he's some sort of big ape or something. Ken is feeling himself up, and Sagat is getting a good chuckle over that. On the other side of the cover, Chun-Li is the only one actually looking decent as she strikes a pose.
So this is really the first issue I have with Linkara. He doesn't back himself up, he just says, hey, this looks odd. I'm not going to say why it looks odd or how it could have been improved, I'm just going to say it looks odd, and everything else I'm just going to try and make jokes out of. I'll spare you the rest of his in-depth and expert analysis of the front cover and move on. Okay, so by this point Linkara's already gone out of his way to state that he's not a Street Fighter fan, and he's really doing this because, hell, it got requested a lot and someone gave him the comics. You'd think in that situation you would do a lot of research, right? Right?
This also made me stop and think for a second about Street Fighter's story. Namely, what the hell is Street Fighter's story anyway? I admit I can be pretty lazy with my research, but I couldn't find just a straight-up plot synopsis for individual games on Wikipedia, or even on a Street Fighter wiki that I found.
Okay, let's recap this for a moment. He's just admitted that his entire research for this video consisted of going to Wikipedia and checking a Street Fighter wiki. At no point did it occur to him to check out Udon's Street Fighter comics, which are far better and far more recent, or the graphic novels that they've been collected in for your convenience. Again, he's supposed to know about comics. He's our comics guy on the internet. And he also didn't bother to check out the Street Fighter 2 anime movie, readily available, cheap as chips in every DVD store. He didn't bother to check in on the fact that it was re-released and given away free with the PlayStation 2 version of Street Fighter 2. And looks like he's also never heard of the Street Fighter 4 movie that was given away with copies of Street Fighter 4 Special Edition. This is how we end up with misconceptions like this.
Oh sure, there was backstory on the characters in the game, their relations to one another, their motivations, and etc. I did manage to find a Street Fighter plot guide that indicated the plot of Street Fighter 2 basically amounts to M. Bison organizing the tournament to try to rid the world of anyone who could stop his plan to, you guessed it, take over the world.
You really think I'm gonna let you sit through that terrible of course joke again? Come on. So, 1 second he's saying that he can't find any plot whatsoever, no details on it, no idea what the plot of Street Fighter is. The next second he's saying he has found details on the characters' motivations, what they're doing in the tournament, their relationships to one another, and that the whole tournament is designed to stop anyone who could potentially get in Bison's way while he tries to take over the world. What is that, Linkara, if not the damn plot? Don't say you don't know it, and then tell us what it is! Come on! You're contradicting yourself and you're not even on page 1 of the comic. Then again, he is a member of thatguywittheglasses.com, so to an extent, this kind of stuff is to be expected. You know, actually, that whole website style of reviewing, you know, juvenile humour first, actual legitimate review second, it reminds me of someone. I can't think for the life of me who. Okay, we've harped on about him in general. Let's see how he actually is once he gets inside the comic.
Calling it Dragon Punch just sounds wrong as opposed to calling it a Shoryuken. Yes, I know, Dragon Punch is legitimately canon, but Shoryuken just sounds more unique than insert animal in front of fighting move here. Now if you'll excuse me, I must go practice my dung beetle flying kick.
Oh god, that was supposed to be humour.
You dare call yourself a champion? You are weak, Ryu! Weak? I take no insults from a mere woman! Our hero is sexist, too. I look forward to Sagat giving him a beatdown. For the moment, though, I'll settle for Chun-Li, who kicks him in the face. I am the strongest woman in the world!
And now we get to my biggest issue with Linkara, and the reason I said he should rename his show to Bedtime Stories with Uncle Linky. He doesn't actually review the comic, he just reads them. Voices included, unfortunately. This guy's basically just handed over his Street Fighter comics to Linkara to have them read back to him through the internet. At no point will you hear Linkara talking about panel placement, about whether things are relevant, about how things are staged, about the colouring, about anything, really. All he does is sort of read through it and occasionally whine and bitch. That's not reviewing.
He thinks that Ken has changed most of all, losing interest in the tournament and becoming a celebrity. I'm getting ready to launch my own clothing line, and I'm shooting a movie.
Quite literally, the rest of the video really is just him keeping that up for pretty much every single page of the comic. You know, really, I'm surprised no one's accused him of being a form of piracy in and of himself. Curious about a comic? Can't be bothered to buy it? Go watch the Linkara video, he'll read you every page. Another major issue I have with the guy is that he refuses to review anything that isn't, in his eyes, a bad comic. He has gone on record as saying he will only review something he can play for shits and giggles. Another victim of the Pandora's box that gave us angry reviewing in the first place. It doesn't help that being on TGWTG gives him an instant audience with instant gratification, and no doubt an ego to go along with that. The problems are no doubt exacerbated by him having been put on a pedestal. So let's review what we've learned today. Linkara seems to be incapable of giving an actual review, will only review something for the lulz, and only got the job in the first place because they couldn't find anybody else who was covering comics. I could keep going on about the guy and levy several more complaints at him, but I'm sure someone's got to be chomping at the bit to pick up from where I'm leaving off. Asa will be back soon, and he does appreciate all of the well wishes towards his wife that you've been giving. In the meantime, if you want to check out anything more from myself, you can do so at the links that will be appearing on your screen right about now, because hey, a guy's got to plug himself, right? Until next time, dear viewer.